Alright, let's check out what's going on with SLP. So today I'm going to be trading based on the momentum indicators. Specifically, we're going to be looking at the EMA ribbons and the squeeze mom, which if you're not familiar with is the squeeze momentum indicator. So starting off with the 4-hourly on the SLP, you can basically see that we had a long signal fire all the way down here where the bottom pretty much was. We flipped the EMA signals to the green side, we flipped them to the upside, and we started to head up. Obviously the long-term indicator flipped very bullish, and at least on the 4-hourly time frame we started to set up a very nice parabolic run to the upside. We set up a bull flag indicator, broke out to the top, and we filled, I don't want to say a price target because I personally didn't have this as a price target, but this local resistance up here we seem to have found very strong support at. Now if we look at what's going on right now on the 4-hourly, we could be getting ready to flip the EMA candles or the EMA ribbons to the downside. We have already done it, I believe, on the hourly. Yeah, the hourly EMA ribbons are firing a sell signal right now, and in my opinion it's really not looking too healthy. Not just for SLP, but for the entire crypto markets. For example, I do believe Bitcoin is going to have a quick flush out and shake out the weak hands, and I do believe that that could potentially correlate to a big retest of some of these lower levels for one more time before SLP does start to reverse to the upside. Now, I personally am of the opinion that SLP has bottomed all the way down here. I don't necessarily think we're going to be going down here anymore. But I am starting to think that SLP is starting to look a little bit bearish in the short term. Now, if we look at this, like I said, hourly EMA ribbons recently flipped to the downside only a couple of hours ago. Actually it was probably about 12 hours ago or so, but we did flip these to the downside, and that was your first warning signal. Now if we come over to the 4-hourly, you can see the EMA ribbons are really starting to head down, and it looks like the short-term moving average on the EMA indicator is going to start to head down and cross below the long-term moving average, which, if you don't know how these work, basically when that happens, this will flip red. So it is not necessarily looking too good. It is looking really bad on the 1-hourly. I think we're going to start to head down very shortly, and on the 4-hourly it looks like it's going to carry the momentum to the downside for a little bit. If we look at the squeeze mom momentum indicator as well, you can see that we've just recently, in the past 8 hours, started to fire red. So before I made a video, like I was looking at this on SLP this morning, and I didn't necessarily want to make a video until we did flip to the downside on the squeeze momentum indicator. So I am updating you now. Obviously, in my opinion, we could definitely have one quick flush out to the downside before we do start to head up. Now, I personally don't believe this is going to be long-lived. I think we are going to have one quick flush out, and the reason for that is because, I'll point it out, even though this is an SLP video, and I know a lot of you probably don't give a single shit about what's happening with the dollar and the stock market, what's happening with the dollar is the reason why SLP is heading down, because the dollar's heading up, the dollar's gaining strength, and the dollar has had a slight breakout. Now, while in the macro term, I do believe this is the top for the dollar, at least in the short term, it's not looking too good. So the dollar's heading up, and this has had momentum, or this has caused enough momentum for the stock market to start heading to the downside. The stock market has had a very rough day as well. And obviously what happens in the stock market, whether you like it or not, correlates to what's happening in Bitcoin. You can see these are basically the same chart. In the past 2 days, these have started to head down very strongly, and that's because Bitcoin follows the stock market, and SLP is going to do the exact same. It's going to follow Bitcoin, which is going to follow the stock market, which is going to follow the dollar. These are all tied together in tandem. Whether we like it or not, personally, I don't necessarily like it. I wish Bitcoin was more was more removed from the action of the stock market, but it's what we've got to deal with now. I want, don't get. So we've got to work with what we got to work with, and obviously dollar heading up and the stock market heading down is not looking good for Bitcoin. On Bitcoin specifically, the squeeze momentum is heading down, and on the 4-hourly, it's not looking good either. We've just fired a sell signal, and we're having massive selling volume coming in very quickly. So what I think is going to happen for SLP is a quick flush out, because I think the same is going to happen for Bitcoin. I think Bitcoin is due for one quick flush out to the downside to sort out the funding rates, and to flush out the weak hands, and I believe that that is going to cause a big drop in the coming day or so for SLP. Now, I could be wrong, leave your thoughts down below, but the momentum is really picking up to the downside right now, especially on the squeeze bomb. We've headed, you know, very harshly down to the downside, and as far as I can tell, the last time we headed down this fast on the squeeze bomb momentum, it was roughly here. I mean, we haven't seen the second candle on the squeeze mom head down that fast since we were roughly around this region, and you can basically see that we did have a big flush out. This may look like a big time frame, but this is on the 4 hourly, so this is really, you know, we had a dead cat bounce and then started rolling over again. So in my opinion, we might have a dead cat bounce, we might come back into the EMA ribbons, but until we really do start flipping these EMA ribbons, specifically on the 4 hourly back to the bullish side, I would be slightly cautious on SLP, and I do think that we are due for one quick flush out before we do start heading to the upside. Now, on the flip side of that, the daily squeeze mom is still very much green, and we are, you know, having a little bit of green still sticking in there, but this is really flat, and you know, there is a lot of momentum that we could pick up if we do start to flip red in the next couple of days. So I would just be slightly cautious on SLP. I do think this could get very dangerous with the selling volume that we're having in, especially on, I mean, the lower time frames. I mean, we're having a little bit of selling volume, nothing crazy, but the momentum is really picking up. So in my opinion, SLP is due for one quick flush out to the downside. With that said though, looking at this on the daily, I still do believe that this was the bottom down here for SLP. You know, I find it hard to believe that we would have backtested the 786, broken through the 618, and then just, you know, started to head up and then just completely take out the lows. So I do think the lows are in for SLP. Nonetheless, in the short term, this could get very ugly. So I would just be slightly cautious. I'm not looking to enter any longs right now or any trades, but do bear in mind we're still above the top of this bull flag, and this 618 / local top over here between 216 and 211, specifically 2 cent 15, 2 cent 10, is a very strong level of support, but we really would need to start moving up soon. Otherwise SLP could definitely take a massive landslide, and this would obviously be following what Bitcoin's doing, because I believe Bitcoin is due for one quick flush out, just to flush out the weak hands. But like I said, the general macro uptrend is still very much intact, and we do look pretty good. So that is all I see for SLP. A lot to take in there. Once again, none of this is financial advice, it's just my own opinion on the market, and you've always got to do what's best for you. Cowboy out. Peace.